Hello and welcome back to Paranormal NL Podcast. That's PNL Podcast for short, located in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. I'm your host and founder, Jen Noseworthy. Thank you for tuning in to UPRN United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in Ireland and 105.3 FM on that Gulf. For tonight's Deja-Vu Special on UPRN Segment number 67, I've got a special guest waiting backstage from Poland over in Europe, who I'll bring on shortly. Now it's time to grab your favorite drink, a few leftover Valentine chocolate munchies, and get ready for the Deja Vu show tonight. Paranormal NL Podcast is sponsored by the Bog Team. It's a boots on the ground Bog Team doing historical paranormal investigations in Newfoundland, Canada. Smash those subscribe buttons and grab your PNL Podcast and Bog Team merch at TeePublic on their link tree, Paranormal NL Podcast. All Bog Team music heard in the intro and the exit is available for download and use on all social media and streaming music platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Music, DistroKid, and YouTube. Watch for PNL Podcast every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on UPRN's YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal Radio, with a live chat watch party. And find other PNL broadcasts on UPRN United Public Radio Network at uprntalkradio.com. You can also watch PNL's UPRN on the PNL YouTube channel, which is a separate channel that comes on right after the UPRN broadcast at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. PNL Podcast believes in supporting international paranormal networking and highlighting global paranormal people, places, and things. Now, let's get on with the show. I want to give a shout out to the ancient tech and UFO author and publisher Ken Goudsward from PNL Season 2. Actually, it was Season 4, Episode 2 on UPRN Segment number 62 from Dimensionful.com. And a shout out to Mark Eddy from Third Eye Live, who introduced me to tonight's guest. Now, let's get on with the show. I'm going to bring on stage our guest. Here he is. Welcome to the show. We've got Aleksander Czeszkiewicz. I hope I got that right.
Yes, that was a good one. Thanks for having me on, and hello everyone listening.
Yes, thank you so much for being back on UPRN. I know that you were on there with Michelle before with her broadcast, and she's one of our UPRN producers. So it's an honor to have you on the PNL show. So may I call you Alek?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Alek, you're a Polish researcher and author. You want to tell me a little bit more about yourself to the listeners here?
Yes, as you mentioned, I'm from Poland, the northernmost part near the Baltic Sea. I'm a researcher and author of Deja-Vu. Has everything already been? This was my first book. I can show it here. Then I translated it myself into English, and it was a very, very long story, but I started very early because I finished writing this book in my original language, Polish, just at the age of 17, and then I needed to wait till 18 to publish it, and then at the age of 19, I translated it into English and published it in English because I started very, very early when I was in the middle high school. I had background in most of the academic topics because my mother was a history teacher, my father engineer. We had plenty of books at home, so I was interested in all kinds of mysterious phenomena in the universe from a very, very early age. But
you're lucky to have a mom and a dad with so many different books, and especially in history. Wow. I remember I used to have the those books, the Britannica, the encyclopedias.
Mm-hmm. We have different ones here, in Poland.
Yeah, we used to love looking through those when we were kids, but tell us more.
Yes, so I started very early, and just because of my background, I was a good student. I didn't need to learn much, and I was having very high grades. But at some point, I started participating in competitions, especially historical ones, but also like English ones, because I was learning English a lot, which also enabled me to, not only be here with you today, but also on many podcasts all around the world, having my book in English and so on. And it was during my middle high school history competition that I started being interested in, like, what some people would call today alternative history, but I would say in the biggest mysteries of the history. Because for this competition, it was around, I was 15 years old or something. I needed to learn from, actually not even history, actually from prehistory of humanity, previous species of humanoid beings like the hominids, Australopithecus, Homo erectus, and so on, up until actually the modern times of 1990s. So I needed to learn a lot, like the big picture, and it was when I learned actually this big picture, because I ranked very high in these competitions, I started questioning all that I was taught about when it comes to especially history. Is it all? Is this picture complete? And how do we know that there weren't civilizations before ancient Sumer, Egypt, or India? And how do we know that, for instance, our history may be older than we think it is? So it was at that time that I started questioning, and I digressed a bit from, let's say, casual or mainstream thinking about our history, and I went into, all the kinds of even ancient alien stuff, of course, Graham Hancock, Lost Civilizations, Plato. And here in Poland we have a saying that every myth, legend, or a folk story has at least a grain of truth. This is like a Polish saying. And I started thinking that if I am interested in the oldest times of humanity, maybe I should start listening to what the ancients were telling us about what was before them, because they were much closer to, those prehistoric times than we are today.
Yes.
And that's how it all started, research in Plato, lost civilizations. Also, as I mentioned, my dad had a background as an engineer, so I had plenty of, for instance, sciences about different materials, which helped me to, show myself first, and then in my book, the picture of how it would be quick for civilization, for instance, like ours today, to vanish. Let's say how many thousands or tens of thousands of years all the things would last if, let's say, humanity disappeared, vanished today. So this was also one of the things that shaped my view that, for instance, modern plastics, modern metals, alloys, all of that would disappear relatively quickly, because
it would, wouldn't it? Especially if it was
yes,
some kind of a nuclear event that melted it, or maybe it wasn't
yes,
even nuclear. Maybe it was some kind of solar flare that melted everything
yes,
on the planet because we
this
didn't
is
have a stratosphere anymore,
exactly, this is what I'm talking about in my book, all the kinds of scenarios like solar flares, coronal mass ejections. Also, I mentioned this kind of phenomena, but what I was shown, what I personally to some extent shown to myself, but by all this research, is that in our past, from what we actually, let's say, know about geology and history and prehistory of humanity, we can say that there is a possibility that there was at least something once or twice or a few times before us, that we may not be the first ones. And
I completely agree with you. Like, looking at this picture of the sands, I think, didn't they find some unexplained glass in the sands that, okay,
yes,
I know
Libyan desert glass, yes, they
yes, I know
found.
when lightning hits it, it does weird things, right? But this glass was to the max. So that let you know that was something, it must have been some kind of either nuclear event or some kind of solar event or something weird for that to happen. Or maybe there was a pole shift and everything was a big mess. Like you talked about the Bible and very ancient times. And, in every culture, in every world, there's always a deluge of flood everywhere.
Yes.
Something happened, right, Alec?
Yes, yes. Actually, right now, because right now I'm a student still, and I'm studying, like, I'm having a personal schedule. I'm not studying just, some kind of bachelor degree in history, but I have a personal tutor, and I can, expand, not go into irrelevant subjects for my research. They actually reached out to me first, the university, despite, some people would say, oh, this is pseudoscience. Here in Poland, they were very, very open, even when it comes to my research, my book, and they even wanted me. Right now, I'm in the process, in the following months, probably, I will be publishing even a scientific article under supervision, because I'm still a student, for one of the biggest national scientific journals in religious studies. And this will be about the flood story and its similarities between the Hebrew Bible, ancient Mesopotamian, much older sources like the Sumerian and Akkadian ones, and then ancient Hindu stories, because also this, as you mentioned, this motive, this theme is found all over the world. And here I will be, scientifically saying that, oh, here are the similarities, and here we can trace them, let's say, to this source and this source. But in my book, I, of course, speculate, and I was at least, and I'm still to some extent of an opinion that the deluge story, and these stories found all over the world about a global deluge, could have been an event of the ending of the last ice age, like about 12,000 years ago, the famous Younger Dryas sinking of Atlantis. Because from what I found when it comes to geology, true sources, the sea level rise from the end of the last ice age till nowadays was 120 meters. I don't know if you use metric system where you air this program, but 120 meters is like a moderate size skyscraper. So imagine standing on a beach where you live. I was imagining, and 120 meters, this was the change of the sea levels. So I was, wow, if there was such a change, let's say even if it was over 1,000 or 2,000 years, as some skeptics are saying, I think it was a fact that there were some kind of places all over the world that were sinking suddenly, because let's say the glaciers were melting, part of the glacier went down into water, was chopped off, and it could have created a huge mega wave or a
that's
tsunami.
Still happening now today.
Yes.
We see that happening in not just slowly, but very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You see all these different movies that are hidden in plain sight, shall we say, about the desalinization, because everything is melting and the water temperature increasing. That is happening here in Newfoundland.
Yes.
We have great white sharks here. We've never had them before. The waters are getting warmer. We're getting all these different creatures who haven't been here before. Birds who are confused in their flight because of the solar flares and the magnetic sphere. All kinds of different animals are confused and coming here who've never been here before.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and having to adapt to the new surroundings. And actually, you talk about water getting higher. We actually have the opposite problem here. Our water is drying up. Our drinking water in the city next to me in Torbay, their water is so low, there's actually mud in it, and there's a boil water ban. They can't drink their water. The wells are drying up. And it's not just that city, there's other towns that are having problems. So that's kind of scary.
Yes, the climate changes have been happening all the time. Even like a geological fact that a little bit, like, let's say, plus minus 1,000 years before the Sumerians, the climate was average on all the planet about 2 degrees Celsius higher than it is today, and it has been since then. So, it was warming, even before that, the ice ages were cyclical. Here in Poland, we have plenty of remnants and leftovers of the ice ages, like huge rocks in the middle of nowhere. One rock that is huge, all from this, probably, at least according to the mainstream theory, from the melt waters, etc. And Poland, because plenty of skeptics, if we're talking about lost civilization and stuff like that, I was researching, skeptics very heavily say, oh, we always, as alternative researchers, are searching, let's say, in Sahara or in the Amazon, where it is very hard for us to search, so this is the argument that we want to search there instead of in casual places where we find just normal data that isn't supporting lost
I love
civilization
that you
theory.
mentioned that, Alec, because you know what? I am obsessed with LiDAR. Have you seen all the civilizations that are
Yeah.
under the forest and trees and everywhere else?
Yes.
And you talked earlier about, you know, if so, let's say we did have an explosion or something happened, you talked about the engineering of the wires and the plastic. Well, look at those civilizations are completely overgrown. We didn't even know they
Yes.
were there until we invented LiDAR. And it's cyclical. I'm sure we had LiDAR before in the past, but we're just learning how to do it now. And we're just now learning how to use all the different harmonies and different, shall we say, when it comes to sound, you know, sound therapy and you know, they said that we could move objects with sound
Yes.
and infrasound and we're just using that now in the military, infrasound.
Yes,
Not
I
only
see,
there,
because nearby me is, the famous, I don't know if I can say the word, not to be banned, not to your show to be banned, but, nearby Poland, there are two countries, one big, one small fighting, and we have refugees from these small countries here in Poland, of course, working, etc. And we know a bit about military because it's, a threat. Maybe, who knows, I maybe don't think so that it's like an imminent threat, but who knows if, in a few years, if it doesn't stop, we as Eastern Europe would be also involved in that. So we know
yes,
a
for the
bit. And
people who are listening, Alec, who don't know where Poland is located in Europe. I know a lot of people, maybe they don't know much about geography or whatever. I don't know. But you're in a northern region that borders the Baltic Sea. And you're on the Central European time zone, the CET, and you're bordered on, let's see, the north with Lithuania and the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad Oblast. And then on the south, you got the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And then to the east, you've got Ukraine and Belarus. And then to the west, you've got Germany. And you're the 9th largest country in Europe with your capital city of Warsaw. And you've seen a lot of sadness during the world wars. And since the invasion of the Ukraine by, I won't say who, everybody knows who, over 17 million refugees crossed your border trying to seek help. I mean, your country has seen so many things.
Yes, even before you mentioned, the World War II, and even now, as I'm studying history and we have lessons about archives here in Poland, and it is not in all countries all over the world, we have all the documents, all the books, all the articles copied and stored in a vault somewhere hidden. There is no location of that. Some people know it, but even as I am a publisher, I need to send a few copies to the universities. These are, exemplary. I need to do that. And then I need to send one to this secret vault of all the books that are published. Even if they are stupid, it's for, saving of the cultural heritage of Poland in case of the war. And we learned about history of it, and it was mostly because of the World War II and how, the Nazis took a lot of stuff, and still a lot of stuff hasn't been found. We do not know, because not everything was destroyed, like the gold stuff or the amber stuff. We had like an entire room of amber room, and it was lost in the Second World War. And what is also interesting, before actually the First World War, we are under partition of Russia, Austro-Hungary and Germany for 123 years.
Wow.
So there was no Poland for about 123 years.
Wow.
And we still, to some extent, survived when it comes to language, when it comes to culture. And under the partition, of course, there were periods that, we had some freedom, but there were also periods during which, you couldn't speak Polish. You needed to learn Russian or German, depending on where you were located.
Alec,
the
that
history is long.
The history of the World War reached out over here to Newfoundland too. We actually had U-boats in our harbor. We had a chain across our harbor. They were going around trying to blow up our ships who were mining iron ore in Bell Island. And they actually did blow up 2 ships on Bell Island. And with the Nazi U-boat, we actually have the medals of one of the families or something from one of those boats over in the museum in Belle Island. So, it really did reach in a lot of places worldwide,
Yes.
history-wise. And you said it, about saving the history is so, so important that people do not forget. We just had, not too long ago, this is pre-recorded show, November 11th, we shall not forget. There's a reason why we shouldn't forget, right? We don't want that to happen again. Just like you were talking about the cyclical end of the world. We don't want that to happen again.
Yes, yes. Also, when it comes to, saving stuff, either historical records or, this idea of degradation of how many things would survive, either catastrophe, war, etc., it is also because we have so many, let's say, skeletons of dinosaurs or of some other prehistoric animals or some kind.
Or giants.
Or giants, but I mean before that, when it comes to the history of the earth itself, we see so many skeletons, etc. But from what I've researched, and I was just this year during my studies at the university, they backed up it with true data that we do not have, even from casual dinosaurs or other organisms that roamed the earth in the past, we do not know much about that, because any kind of skeleton or any kind of other, there are other kinds, I don't know how it's sorry in English, but there are, all this let's say marine fossils, etc. The creation of fossils is a very rare event. It often occurs if there are no oxygen conditions, so very often it is a layer of some kind of mud or some kind
sediment,
of oil, sediment, yes. Very often things on swamps are being conserved for much longer, or in some cases it is a cold weather that is freezing, like there are mammoths in Russia that are still with, about 10,000 years ago, and we still have intact blood and intact hair of these mammoths. But these are very, very rare occurrences, and actually about, 95, 98 or 99% of other incidents or of other species that have roamed the earth, we know almost nothing. These are very, very rare incidents, and I think we should also think about that when it comes to civilizations, that when, let's say, there was a civilization 100,000 years ago, a million years ago or something, we would only find a few anomalies. Let's say the famous forbidden archaeology findings in coal, so also airtight layer, or in some kind of swamps or in some kind of oil. That would be a few artifacts that would be less than 1% of everything. And when it comes to this degradation of civilization, it would be, I think, just a few thousand years for a modern kind of civilization like ours today to disappear like in 90%, because of course there would be some cases in which there would be this special circumstances in which some kinds of things would survive, but still 90% of our civilization would completely disappear in a few thousand years, maybe 10,000 years maximum. I even hypothesize, because we have plenty of cosmic litter around, Earth or something from all the probes or the rockets,
yes,
etc.
we do, don't we? Yeah.
Yes, we have a lot of that in the entire actually solar system, but these would also in about 100,000 years would be destroyed because they are, orbiting around either Earth or another celestial body, and they would be closer, and they would hit
fall.
the body fall, exactly. So even when it comes to such kind of things that would survive, they wouldn't survive much longer than, let's say, 100,000 years, and maybe a little, even, tens of thousands, not even hundreds of thousands.
Let me ask you a question. There's a big space race right now. And it just seems like all the elites are kind of putting away their pennies, and gold is increasing. And you're talking about stockpiling, not only just the countries, but personal people who have a lot of money. I think, that they are stockpiling. Why are we so interested in going, into space and moving out of the planet? Is there something that they know that we don't?
For instance, some elites, like, for instance, Elon Musk, believe that, we have, let's say, 20, 30, 50, or let's say maybe 100 years on Earth, and after that, we couldn't be able to live here. Elon Musk believes that it is the future to colonize Mars or other planets because we will need to escape in the future. So this is what they believe in. And they are a little bit backing up. Recently, for instance, Bill Gates is backing up climate change. It is climate change. I also accept that we litter planet a lot, both in pieces like material fragments and maybe some kind of gases, but even Bill Gates recently had said he was wrong, it isn't that bad as he was pushing this agenda of the global warming. So yes, but plenty of people at very high echelons, either in politics or others,
Alec, could it be that we're actually the population of the planet is just growing so exponentially that there's only so many resources. There's only so much gas. There's only so much oil. That's why they're all trying to go green and use batteries. There's only so much food. That's why the prices of food have gone up. There's not enough resources for the planet.
No, that's actually wrong. There is more resources than humans, and we are not actually, growing like that. And even there were some kind of estimations if we put all the people, on the entire planet, because there are, of course, overpopulated areas on our planet. That's true.
Yes.
There are areas on our planet that are having not enough food or water or any other, resource. But when it comes to the global level, there is much more abundance and much more is being thrown away by us than we need. So that's not the problem that there will be too little of, let's say, food. If that was the case, we would be talking about, let's say, twice or 3 times or more the population of Earth. Nowadays it is either 7 or 8 billion or something like that. So right now there is not a problem. We see a huge decline in fertility. Maybe of course, countries, African countries, India and plenty of others are now booming when it comes to population, but at the same time even these countries are a little bit going not down, but a little bit flat in that. So I think that it isn't the case that there would be soon, let's say in 50 or 100 years, a case of overpopulation, not enough food or any other resources. Or maybe there would be a catastrophe that could lead to such a scenario because, for instance, some kind of extraterrestrial body hitting the Earth, or maybe even a volcano that could lead, for instance, to so many particles, so many ashes from, let's say, volcano be put into our atmosphere that there wouldn't be enough sunlight. And there were cases in our history that was the case.
What about sick animals that we eat? The chickens, we recently, I think it was over in British Columbia, they had to kill a whole bunch of ostriches.
Same here in Poland. We also in recent years, like 4 or 5 years, had this, all kinds of illnesses, but still we could grow more, not, let's say, only meat. And, even if there was such an illness, it could be like let's say, just from pigs or just cows. It isn't that pigs, cows and chickens, all of that are at once. At least it isn't the case from what I know in the recent history. But everything is possible, that there could be like a virus or something that could even endanger us as humans, of course, and all the animals. But still, I think it isn't the case that we would be hungry. It would be that we don't have meat in this region, but at the other side we have a little bit too much or something. It is all about having balance in that. Even today it would be easy, actually. We would just need some money to invest
and sharing.
in that. It would be easy for us to share enough so that there wouldn't be hunger. But it's very resourceful wise when it comes to money, logistics, because you need to pay someone to send, you need some technology to preserve the food because it will expire and so on. This is a very, there are plenty of threats about
But what
this
about
topic.
the climate affecting the crops worldwide and the bees? Because if we don't have the bumblebee, we don't have crops, we don't have food to
Mm-hmm.
that will go pollinate everything. I know that a lot of the bees are sick worldwide. And in fact, here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we have one of the only populations in the world of bumblebees or honeybees who are not sick. They don't get confused. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have problems there because we're on an island and we're trying to keep it very clean and safe that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think we might even, I'm not sure, but I think we do rent out the bees. I know that, the bees are rented out all over to different farms and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
in
Yes.
relation to the bees of the world, I know that's a huge problem because of all the GMOs and stuff, right?
Yes.
And the
Or all
spraying
the electromagnetic stuff that affects bees very, very much. Yes, I
and the
agree, but
chemicals, right?
yes, chemicals too, yes. Yes, I agree, and here in Poland we have similar things when it comes to bees and other, but at least from my experience here, and I think in many other regions it is too, that not all plants are pollinated by one single, let's say, even a multiple species of bees. There are
Right.
other insects that pollinate different plants, so if we
Butterflies.
yes, or there are also pollination without insects in other ways. So it all
Right.
depends on plants and what we will, use in the future. So if there could be a shortage, as you mentioned, in
Mhm.
meat or in some kind of, cereal or something like that. But, I think that long term, let's say 100 years from now, with all the current population growth, etc., if there wasn't some kind of catastrophe that was outside of these natural things, like something hitting us or a war or something, I wouldn't say, in my opinion, that that would be the case, that we would have on a global level, full level shortages of any kinds of that.
I think it's a lot related to the economy too. You see that
Yes.
my brother, he works in the mining industry, and he said when you see gold go up, that's usually not a good sign. I mean, it's good for
Mm-hmm.
them, but usually it's a global sign
Yes.
of uncertainty. And if there was a big depression again worldwide, would that cause a lot of problems?
You know what we have here in Poland here this year, but before it was similar, but not in such a level. Here in Poland, there is a problem that the fruits, like berries, like apples, like cherries, I don't know which one specifically, but some of these fruits that are here being grown in Poland are so cheap to sell when it comes to someone who have such plantations of them, that a huge amounts of these fruits are being not thrown away, but they are decaying on the trees or
Oh my
on the
gosh.
bushes, and
And you know
this
what?
is very sad. And
And we
one more
can't get that stuff here. It takes forever, Alex, because we're an island. So when we get our fruit is like half rotten by the time we get it.
yeah.
And it's so sad because you got all this fruit and you can't export it.
Yes, but it's some is exported, but still it became so cheap. It's so expensive for me, let's say, as a customer, to buy at that store. Even local fruits, they are very, very expensive. They're getting more and more expensive. But we know what they also did. These fruits were rotten because the money to sell them to, let's say, some kind of distribution for for shops, and also for to pay people to pick them, was too much than their cost. And also the government did that you need to pay the taxes even if you didn't pick these fruits from these fruits decaying on your plantations. That was extremely, like, what the hell is going on? This was plenty of farmers or people here who are doing that were very angry because these fruits and stuff are decaying either way, and I need to pay the taxes as if it was sold, a little more, less tax
Wow.
than I would sell that, but still a tax from what isn't even picked up. So
Wow.
such situations happen all over the world. Here I have this situation, but I think that all over the world there are different kinds of situations. And
Yeah.
the same like in book publishing, you need to give distribution 60%, and they then even cut more and more, and that's why some authors have like $1 or even less here in Poland, for one copy of their book. So the same in food industry and in plenty of other industries. That's why I think plenty of corporations want to have control over such areas, because then it is much more profitable to them. And then if you think about conspiracy theories, then they can control, what is given, what is available to just ordinary humans.
Wow. What kind of fruit do y'all have over there that you were referring to that's popular?
We have strawberries, we have other kinds of berries, some that are local or like Eastern, like Kamchatska's one. So
What's that?
different
Kamchatka? What's that?
Kamchatka, yes. Kamchatka berry is like very rich in plenty of minerals. You cannot eat it much, or else you would instantly have like hour or two after that diarrhea. It's very healthy, tons of nutrients, and yes, and you need to just a little of it, and it isn't like in stores. It's like more you go to the countryside or people who are having it, or you can have it in your own garden, but it isn't like popular on the shelves. This is one example that I've been eating for years now. We have apples. Apples are very, casual here. Apples, pears, like not very like bananas or no citruses, of course. We have like a temperate zone, but with this emphasis on the colder side of it. So, but berries are here, potatoes and stuff like that.
Sounds similar to ours. We have a lot of
Yes.
berries. We have cloudberries and blackberries and blueberries, and potatoes are quite often harvested here. Yeah, we're a very cold country.
Yes, we are a little bit or much less cold, but still within similar, I would say, similar zone of what is growing here. And because plenty of plants just are not surviving the winter. Maybe there could have been, for instance, we have olive trees you can buy and you can get it outside during, summer and it will be there and everything is fine. But for winter, you need to, close it somewhere indoors. So
Yes.
the same with citruses like lemons or something. The same way, summer okay, but not winter, autumn, and spring.
So has your climate changed at all where you're at? I had mentioned that there was a bit of changes here. Like for right now, we usually would have a lot of snow, but we found that it seems like it's more temperate, the weather here.
I think because I was thinking that when I was younger, there was much more snow. When my parents were, younger,
Yes.
there was much more snow. But
I
I
remember
see
that
that
too.
it's not that linear. There was tons of snow. Now there's nothing. No, there come such years when there is a lot of snow back. So
Cyclical, right? Yeah.
cyclical, but not exactly like every year, every other year or something. But I would say random. Once there is a very cold winter, once there is very warm, you can have two warm winters consequently, and then you can have two very, very cold ones.
So I have to give a shout out to, let's see, you've been on the show Typical Skeptic podcast with Robert. He's going to be coming on soon on Paranormal NL podcast. And yeah, you've been in a lot of similar circles as myself.
Yes.
Now,
Yes, I've been.
do you also do a podcast?
Yes, I can say I have, but I'm co-hosting a podcast, Atlantis Bros, with historian Michael Leflam, whose book Visions of Atlantis I'm currently in the process of publishing here in Poland with my own translation from English to Polish. So that's why I was busy recently, and Michael is also moving, so we had I think, few months of break between the episodes because, he needs to get his studio right in another country. I was in this time publishing, his book in Polish. I think it will be just before Christmas for people to get. And yes, so to some extent I have a podcast, and I'm also available, not that extensively, but I am to come back to creating English, content, because I'm in Poland, so I created lots of Polish content on YouTube, Facebook, and other social media. I need to come back, but you can find me. Just, I think the best way is to copy paste my name and surname or use the links under this show. You can find me on plenty of, social media, both in English and Polish.
Awesome. Excellent. So yes, this is the other person that you were talking about.
Yes, Michael Flam. He's a historian.
Oh, and where is he moving to?
He has moved already to China.
Oh, wow. That's a big move.
Yes, that's why we had a break.
Wow. Yeah, that's a
He's a
huge.
teacher there. I think he's sharing everything. It's not something confidential. I think he shared that he's moving. So
That's a big time zone change. I know I've done a podcast with Japan, uh, and yeah, it's interesting to try to reach out because it's on the other end of the world.
yes, I'm in
Different,
the middle. Europe is in the between Australia, Far East, and the Americas. So
yes,
of
I'm
course,
looking
from
for.
different perspective, because if we took a different approach, actually, you will be at the middle too between Asia and Europe. So it's all about the perspective.
Well, you're doing really good with your English translation and your books. I know there's another book that you wrote. I don't want to say it was about the alignment.
Yes, it was it was published as a book on Amazon, but it was like an article that was available to get in print. So I think it isn't available anymore. But yes, it was like a short compendium, and I think I in the future would publish something more extensive on this topic, as the title says, about the alignment of the Giza pyramids, but also other pyramids. So most of the mathematical, geographical properties and astronomical, of course, of the Giza pyramids.
Yes, that's an interesting topic. You had mentioned ancient aliens earlier. I know I'm a big fan of that show. And what do you think about the theory that they talk about with Three Eye Atlas? What's your take on that?
Actually, yesterday I was on a live stream similar to that, but with a panel of guests, including, for instance, author Lard Scranton. He is author of a few books, and we were discussing because it was, this announcement by NASA of this Three Eye Atlas. And Three Eye Atlas, Three Eye is the third interstellar object, so the third one from out of our solar system that we have managed to see, because probably throughout the years there were plenty of others, but only now with modern apparatus we can see such objects and identify that they are not just comets of the solar system, but they are outside. There are plenty of anomalies when it comes to that. The path was anomalous, everything was anomalous. It was very, very high. It had very, very high speed, 60 kilometers per second, so it is a lot. I think it would be a minute from me to you just passing or something, or I think less than a minute or a little bit more, just about a minute when it comes to these distances, or a little bit more. But it's very interesting whether it's a natural object, comet-like object, or whether it's a spacecraft or something, because even if it is just a comet, it provides us a lot of information because it is anomalous, because it is coming from other regions, and other regions that are so far away that we are checking by telescopes what particular, let's say, star systems and planets are emitting, what radiation they're emitting, and by these radiations we can say, oh, this is gaseous planet, oh, this is a planet similar to Earth, for instance, that could have life on its surface. But what is interesting that there are so many anomalies about this Three Eye Atlas that it is like a material, let's imagine it was from this part of the planet that we know, just this is a gaseous planet, this is a similar to our planet. It is a true artifact from this very, very far away. It is said that it is older than the solar system itself, so it can provide us, even if it is a comet after all, with information that maybe in far distant parts of the universe, matter behaves differently. Of course, we know maybe composition of certain planets or stars may be different there, but maybe matter behaves differently. Maybe there are completely new atom configuration into new, just as we have gold, silver, etc., all the periodic table of elements. Maybe there are new elements there. So even if it would be a comet, it can provide us with plenty of information. And I said yesterday that they say, oh, everything says it is comet-like objects, but I said that if we were very, very advanced, let's assume, like advanced thousands or tens of thousands of years into the future, and we wanted to probe something like our solar system, we see, oh, here is a solar system with something like Earth that may have intelligent life on it just as us, we wouldn't send a flying saucer or some kind of angry looking extraterrestrial ship because we would scare these people out or their other. And also I made a point that not only it is about scaring people, that we could send something that looks natural, looks just like comet, looks like something that these people know, so they think, oh, it's just a comet, nothing, and we have all the information gathered by just, being close to them. But I also mentioned that very often things that are natural are the most efficient because, nature did all of the years or maybe intelligent design to create all of the most efficient things. Like, for instance, engine in cars are not efficient. Either gasoline or, let's say, electric engines in cars are also not, let's say, 100% never efficient, electric motors. But in our own bodies, human bodies, we have something, biological structure inside of us that is behaving just like an engine. So it is giving this circular motion, and it's almost 100% efficient. We try, maybe let's say 50%. I think gasoline cars have like 20 something, 30% efficiency, but now we see something inside of us that has almost 100% efficiency. And you know what? Maybe if we're so advanced, we would see, maybe this comet-like structure would be the most efficient to get there. Maybe sending something that looks like a comet would be more efficient fuel-wise, for instance, or in many other cases faster than sending a craft, like a saucer or something. So this is the second argument.
What do you think about people saying that it's Planet X or it's, the Anunnaki or something like that?
Anunnaki faster, but not the Planet X. I think it isn't behaving like a planet. It's too small for a planet because, it's whether it is, the biggest estimations were 40 kilometers in diameter. Now I think it's between like 5, 3, 7 kilometers. So it's too small for sure to be the Planet X, Nibiru, or anything else. But when it comes to Anunnaki or any other kind of extraterrestrials, they might have sent it to probe the solar system, to probe the Earth. So that would be my better guess.
I was thinking about that too, like a probe, because we do that, when we go somewhere where we don't know what it is. For example, when we went in to maybe some caves or something, we have this technology now where, we get the camera and stick it in there and look around. Maybe that's a big camera or something.
Yes.
And are they here, Alec, because there's going to be some kind of worldwide event that we don't know about? Are they watching us?
I will tell you my own theory that it's most close to me when it comes to ancient aliens or anything UFO, UAP related. I think that such beings could be something like ghosts, like not exactly material beings like we of flesh and blood or like robots of metals, but I think, and from, for instance, experiences that people are sharing with DMT, ayahuasca, etc., and the stories of teachers of mankind who taught civilization, because all over the world most of the civilizations said that it were teachers of mankind, whether gods or demigods, that taught them the basic stuff of civilization. And right now I'm analyzing it very historically with sources, true sources, translations at least, of course, not maybe in all original languages, but they are very, very descriptive, very, very exact. It is said this person, let's say God, taught humanity this, and this, and he taught us to build canals, he taught us to, create this kind of shelter to this kind of wall. These are very descriptive, like in some cases, like parts of technical details about certain building styles or how they created bricks for, cities in case of the ancient Sumer. So these are very interesting all over the world, Egypt, Sumer, and even primitive people. And I think that, DMT ayahuasca is one of the better evidence because it is said in plenty of legends and lore of tribes that this knowledge of how to create this DMT ayahuasca thing for us to drink was given through like some kind of ghost, some kind of immaterial source like Mother Nature or something taught us, mix this and this and you will get the ayahuasca. And it is a very complex drink, because you need to take this and make it hot, this make it cold, and then you need to very carefully mix all of that in certain procedures. So I think that either either Anunnakis or these teachers of mankind or other gods and demigods could have been some kind of physical, astral, non-material entities that were visiting Earth, that are here now. Maybe some even UFOs, UAPs, visitations, because in at least a few, maybe not most, I wouldn't say that, but in a lot of these cases, it isn't like material that you can touch. In some cases, yes, it is. There are descriptions that, oh, you can touch that UFO, let's say, but in plenty of cases, it is, that's why we see, oh, this is only some lights, don't worry about that, it's no craft or something. But I think it may be whether something about plasma, whether something about even
energy
something beyond
somehow.
energies that
Yes.
even we do not know how to exactly measure with scientific apparatus. Maybe not energy in a sense of physics, but energy beyond that, or some kind of
Right.
multidimensional stuff. So this is my theory, that most of these aliens, ancient aliens, were these kinds of entities, like
Yes,
later
sure.
in
Look
Christian
at
times, angels
En-
and demons.
yes, and Enoch. That
Yes.
device that he saw was very confusing, but to an engineer, that looked like an engine or some sort of machine. And you had talked about building things. Well, I mean, look, he told us how to build the ark and all these other things. And why is it all over the world? It's always somebody from above who gave us the
Yes.
knowledge.
And all the magic found even in cultures that were isolated of each other, some kind of magic, some kind of ghosts,
Yes.
spiritual stuff that is
Yes.
basic of all the human experience. I've researched it even scientifically, and the scientific answer to the spirituality, ghosts, etc., or soul would be that people heard that heart is beating, and it was independent of their thought. They said, oh, it is beating, oh, my gut is working while I'm eating. It is something more, it's some kind of spirit, it's some kind of ghost. This is their official explanation of some kind of anthropologist of how spiritual beliefs came about, because they've seen that some things are independent of, let's say, me, physical in flesh, or I may have something you will touch here and my hand will move. So they thought that there are some kinds of ghost souls or anything that is mentioned all over the world. But I think that it isn't like the best description and example of how it all came about. And I think and I believe that there is much more to the matter and to the material physical realm. And I think just at the end, I would also say I was very, very into philosophy of science, how science works, because I saw, I was wondering why they call it pseudoscience and this is science, what is the difference, and so on. And science officially should only be capable of measuring and of interpreting data that is within the material world. So anything metaphysics, beyond physics, anything like ghost, paranormal, this is beyond the bubble of science, the domain of science. So I would say, let's say there is the infinity, or let's say there is a huge bubble of everything that exists, and science is a smaller bubble within that bubble that only applies to the material world, exactly to be matter and its interactions. But this is, much more complicated, but to be short, science, like modern at least science, only applies to the physical material realm, let's say the space-time, 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time, and what is beyond is outside of the scope. Let's say I'm a specialist in history and this would be physics. Let's say I wouldn't be a specialist in that. So that would be it with science and paranormal. So that's very clear, very good to delineate that, because then someone say, oh, this is some kind of paranormal is pseudoscience or false or something. No, it is just beyond the domain, beyond the scope of science. In most cases, not all.
Yes, definitely. A lot of people talk about different dimensions and things like that. And I believe that like we had talked about energy and things like that. I think it's all about energy and things like that. And it's only now that people are, I think, beginning to learn and understand that when it talks about different vibrations and things. We mentioned that earlier. So yeah, it's all very interesting to talk about. Well, I think we covered a lot of different things, and I'm really looking forward to more of your books and more of your research. And I really appreciate you being on with us today. Alex, do you want to tell people where they can find you and your work?
Yes, I think the best way would be to copy and paste. If you don't have any links, copy paste my name and surname, and you will for sure find me very quickly on the internet. YouTube, Facebook, Instagrams, or something like that. And my book is Deja-Vu Has Everything Already Been. And if you are specifically searching for it in Canada it is on Amazon Canada. It's also on Amazon US, but on Amazon Canada, probably just copy paste either title, Deja-Vu Has Everything Already Been, or my name and surname, and you will for sure find it. And I highly recommend it. It is 450 pages with footnotes, bibliography, so with everything. It is, as I mentioned, as we are talking about, speculative outside of, let's say, academia, but it incorporates, it shows what is known and what is yet to be discovered, what is unknown. It is like a metaphor of the legendary hero that is on the verge of the known world, of the world or the kingdom that is being destroyed, and on the unknown, on the adventure. So here it is, and here you can see links. I think the second one is Canada. Yes, Canada, Deja-Vu Has Everything Already Been, Aleksander Czeszkiewicz, and probably you will also find me on plenty of other podcasts. I've been in your network twice or 3 times if we consider also other shows, like not only Michelle's shows, but also others. And I've been on plenty of podcasts, both in Canada, Australia, US, UK, and I hope to be in even more. Because I have so many things to say. It is very quick for me all this time we are talking, and plenty of other topics that I haven't discussed at all. So you will find plenty of more Atlantis, pyramids, megaliths, and many more, both in my book and other conversations. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that.
Well, thank you so much for again being on the show today. And you can see on the bottom of the ticker where you can find Alex's website. And this is your last name, global.com. And you can find all this awesome information there. You got your main page, the blog, the books, and how to contact you.
Yeah, this is the old cover. There is a new one just I've shown, and the one on Amazon. This is the old
That's
one.
the old one,
there was,
right?
Yes. But everything's good.
Yeah, I love all your websites and stuff. Everybody, make sure you follow Alex and check out all of his information and his books, where to find him, and definitely check him out and follow him. So again, thank you so much for being on the show today. I am going to share the main picture again that I had up behind us there, the Deja-Vu. And is there any kind of music that you'd like to listen to? I usually pull up
something mysterious concerning our conversation. That's
something mysterious. I've got dance, I've got rap,
or
I've
historical,
got rock,
not
metal.
Historical like old one, but what I mean. Something
space, maybe.
That is space that fits the vibe of our conversation.
Yes. So let me pull this one up, and then we'll peace out to the little bit of music. I don't think I've had this one on the show yet. It's called Into Space. And all Bog Tea music is created by Robert Dumond, and he also creates all the different things that you see on the PNL Podcast link tree. I'm going to remove this and put the link tree up, because we still have a few minutes. So while that's playing, we can put the link tree up. Yeah, this is the first time actually I've heard this one. Here is, if you're looking for Paranormal NL podcast, this is our link tree. It's just an example of what it looks like when you're trying to find it. And it's got the UPRN there, the Bog Team YouTube channel. And when you go to Facebook, go to the group. Don't go to the page. The group is where we hang out and where you can find all of the podcasts and the upcoming podcasts. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, all over the place. And if you're looking for some merch, you can head on over to the TeePublic, and we've got some merch over there too. And if you want to check out the International Paranormal Alliance link tree, you can also go there and see other podcasts if you like this one. And I think that Alex is actually going to be joining the IPA. So yeah, congratulations on that. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. I really enjoy actually all of the shows connected with you, all of this web of shows. I think it's a great thing to have. I don't see such things here in Poland or in Europe on a bigger scale, or at least I haven't heard of them, and so I'm really into such kinds of projects.
Well, thank you again, Alec, for being on the show, and you have yourself a wonderful night. I'm going to stop the recording there now. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You're listening in on UPRN 107.7 FM in Netherlands and 105.3 FM on that call.